The Week 10 waiver wire is here, and we're telling you which players to pick up for this week in fantasy football. Welcome into the Football Guys Fantasy Football Show. I'm Alfredo Brown, joined as always. I've got Dave Kluge here with me. And guys, we are going to give you our tiered rankings for the top waiver wire pickups for you. Dave, got 11 players. Maybe we're going to do what we always do, which is under promise, over deliver. Who knows? Maybe along the way, we'll come up with a 12th or 13th player to add.
We might, but I think the top one this week is very much so the top one. We both had him ranked as our top guy. I think he's kind of in a tier of his own. It's not often that you're able to just like pick up starting wide receivers in the middle of the season, but I think we've got that right now.
Yeah, that starting wide receiver is Diami Brown. I'm just kidding. It's Parker Washington, a wide receiver for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Dave, we have live breaking news. I'm so sorry. This is very important. This just threw off the entire episode.
Let's hear it.
The Raiders are finalizing a trade of wide receiver Jakobi Meyers to the Jaguars.
All right. So that tells me that Brian Thomas Jr.'s injury is probably pretty serious. Jakobi Meyers, he's a good fit and does a lot of the same things Parker Washington does. So let's just hit end recording and restart the show from the top.
Restart button.
Be recording 30 minutes before the trade deadline. But yeah, that does really impact Parker Washington quite a bit. I mean, you're getting my very much so off the cuff takes right here. But Parker Washington, you talked about it. He had been moving into the slot. It's been a very lucrative role in this Liam Cohen offense. And I expect Jakobi Meyers to do that. Now, the hope would be that it's just similar usage to Travis Hunter, a handful of targets here and there. But again, I don't think Brian Thomas Jr. is a good fit in this offense. So I expect that he's probably going to miss 3 to 4 weeks with this ankle sprain. Jakobi Meyers can kind of cement himself as that primary receiver working out of the slot. And I think that pushes Parker Washington more into the wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5 discussion.
And this is not just like a low draft. This is a 4th and 6th round pick being sent to the Raiders for Jakobi Meyers. So it's a decent price point that the Jags are paying to have Meyers come over. I'm trying to get as much information on this as we can here, Dave. How did this? Okay, so we can kind of see should sort of affect Parker Washington going forward because he does play a decent amount in the slot. So does Jakobi Meyers. There's a lot of overlapping skill set here and what they can do playing out wider in the slot. I think it's got to change things for Travis Hunter going forward as well, who has been a primarily slot player. Brian Thomas's role feels safe, but now with the injury, what you're saying, I am a little more worried. So how does this affect the Jaguars receiver ecosystem as we kind of go forward here?
Yeah, I think this just bumps Parker Washington down a peg. I mean, if I had to guess, Travis Hunter, I think his season is over. I think Brian Thomas Jr. is probably going to miss 3 to 4 weeks. We're going to see Jakobi Meyers working as the primary receiver with the majority of his snaps coming out of the slot, a la Chris Godwin last year. It's a very lucrative role in this offense. And then Parker Washington, I think he kind of moves into the wide receiver 5 discussion where, there could be some. What we were hoping for is with no Brian Thomas, with no Travis Hunter, we can put 10 targets per game Parker Washington's way. The reality is that probably falls to about 6 or 7 targets per game now with Jakobi Meyers out there. I think this really pushes Diami Brown far off the fantasy radar. But Jakobi Meyers, probably still more of like a high-end wide receiver 3. I'm not getting too over my skis here.
Yeah, I mean, there's still going to be timing, everything. There's chemistry with the quarterbacks. There's playbooks that have to be learned. There's so many things. We could see a slow ramp up of snaps for him, or we could see the full allotment. We really, like you said, Liam Cohen is a pretty secretive guy. Not sure what we're going to be seeing there. Boy, so this would then graphics team, production team. Does this now move Colston Loveland to our number 1 waiver wire ad? I would assume so. Correct.
It does, yeah. And I think it actually moves Parker Washington down to number 3. The other receiver that we want to talk about that we had below Colston Loveland, I think I would prefer him now ahead of Parker Washington.
Let's talk about Colston Loveland first. He's available in 75% of leagues. We saw a really big breakout game. A lot of it was that final play that he scores for a touchdown, but like you've always said, and like I agree, we can't just take away one play from a player's performance and expect that to be the truth going forward. We're going to have to, really take in everything, even the garbage time stuff or that one big play that seems to be happenstance. But 6 catches, 118 yards, 2 touchdowns in week 9. Cole Kmet has been in and out of lineups with injuries. I saw him get dinged up again this last week. If he remains out, Dave, Colston Loveland, is this the breakout? Like, is this where we're getting excited for him going forward? Or do we want to kind of be a little more level headed here?
I've got him as my tight end 13. And that, again, like, we see these big swings where guys like quickly move up into the tight end one streaming conversation, but that's just because there aren't a lot of viable tight ends this year. So I mean, like I moved him ahead of Mark Andrews, ahead of Zach Ertz, Hunter Henry, Mason Taylor. Right now, we're seeing a guy who is seeing a growing role, and I think that we can contextualize his slow start to the season as well. This guy was drafted right after a shoulder injury. He
Right.
wasn't able to participate in rookie mini camps. He wasn't in OTAs. Wasn't even around for the start of training camp. Once he came out, there were flashes here and there throughout camp, but then he also picked up another injury in season that caused him to miss some time. So we talk about this all the time, like how hard it is for rookies if they're struggling with injuries to find a role in the NFL. Loveland is still doing that right now. And we got to remember, this is a guy that has everything we want to see for a tight end. He's got the size, he's got the speed, he's got the playmaking ability, he's got the production profile from college, he's got top 10 draft capital. Like it is just a perfect prospect profile, and now he seems a little bit healthier. The opportunity is there. We see him leading Cole Kmet in routes and snaps and targets each of the last 4 games. And Cole Kmet did, he's been dealing with injuries as well. But
Right.
Loveland is starting to operate as that primary tight end one here. The hope in the preseason, we talked a lot about Sam Laporta and how Sam Laporta was able to immediately acclimate himself to the NFL and Ben Johnson's offense. What we're seeing now, these posts across the middle of the field, the plays after the catch, looks very Sam Laporta-esque to me. So still a lot of mouths to feed in Chicago, but Loveland absolutely belongs in the streaming discussion going forward.
And one of the things we always like to look for with a tight end is how creative is their usage? Are they just being asked to block? Are they only lining up in line? Dave, over the last few games here, we've seen a considerable jump in snaps for Colson Loveland in the slot, but not just in the slot, but out wide. Like there is some
Mhm.
very creative usage here where I mean, I'm looking at the numbers right here 26 snaps in the slot or out wide, 33 snaps in line as a tight end. So to see that sort of 50-50 split of I'm going to have you in line against the tackle on the line of scrimmage or get you in some creative space out here, that's something that we love to see. And I want to see that trend going forward. I think we will, especially if Cole Kmet's not able to play again in the upcoming weeks.
Ben Johnson was in his bag this week when you got
Yep.
DJ Moore throwing touchdowns to Caleb Williams. And I don't know if you saw that back and forth where like Caleb Williams took the snap, flipped it out to Tyson Bagent, who was lined up as a wide receiver. And then Caleb Williams runs a downfield route and gets a pass attempt from Tyson Bagent. We also saw a pitch back to Cole Kmet where Cole Kmet threw
Yeah.
a pass to Roma Dunze for a first down. I mean, like, Ben Johnson doesn't care about positions. Like if you're on the
No.
field, you better be able to play slot, out wide, inline, backfield. Like he is just moving guys all over the place. It's fun football to watch. That's for sure.
All right, so then let's talk about that. The other wide receiver, then, who we would then take ahead of Parker Washington, becomes Alec Pierce, the wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts, who, Dave, he's available in 72% of leagues. You and I have been talking about him, how we are seeing a different role for Alec Pierce. It's not just the cardio routes, it's running downfield and getting, just trying to come down with a couple of contested catch bombs. This is a guy who's running a lot of deep crossers, got some out routes that are getting him open in space, doing a little bit more of the physical things that you want to see from a complete wide receiver. And we are seeing that here. Daniel Jones seems to be trusting him. Going back to last week, 115 yards on 6 targets. He's been averaging 90 plus yards over the last 3 games. We got the Atlanta Falcons coming up who allow big chunk plays downfield. This could be another big game for Alec Pierce as well. I would say he's probably more of a boom bust flex that we've had, like just going off of what we've seen in previous years. But I think that floor is rising a little bit. I don't think we have that same one catch floor anymore for Alec Pierce. I think it's probably closer to like a 3 catch floor for him, where he's not as volatile or as dangerous to put in your starting lineup.
Yeah, that's absolutely it. And he's also just a prime touchdown regression candidate right now. I mean, like the only guys that have seen more targets and fewer touchdowns than him, Jerry Judy and Jacoby Myers, which hopefully that'll change for Jacoby Myers now that he's in a better offense. But
Right.
yeah, Alec Pierce, it's kind of funny. We've seen his role change over the last few years. His ADOT went up from his rookie year into year two, and then up again from year two into year three. And it's kind of stabilized over the last 2 years now. 22 ADOT last year, average depth of target, 20 ADOT this year. So he's still running those very valuable routes deep downfield. Tyquan Thornton is the only guy in the league with a higher ADOT than Alec Pierce. The difference is that the targets have jumped significantly, and that's something that we didn't see in the past. So yeah, you talk about that floor always being what was so scary. Well, 4.3 targets per game last year, up to 6.4 this year. So there's still very high value targets coming deep downfield. with how many touchdowns he typically scores on a per target basis, it's kind of crazy that he's yet to score now. So, I mean, when you look at it, he is a young ascending player. He has not had a lot of target volume. He hasn't scored a touchdown, and he's still the wide receiver 41 in fantasy. Like, if you just sprinkle a couple of touchdowns in his production, he's up there right now as like a low end wide receiver too. So I wrote about him. He was a big riser in my my rest of season rankings this week. I've got him up to wide receiver 42 on the season, and it just, to me, not only is he getting the opportunity, but he's also a prime touchdown regression candidate. So yeah, trying to pick up Alec Pierce where I can if he's available on waivers and some deeper leagues, dynasty leagues even. I'm willing to go out and trade for Alec Pierce because I think he's taking that step forward as a more well-rounded, versatile receiver this year.
Well, and it's not just that he's taken a step forward, it's that the offense has taken the step forward where you can look at all of the pass catchers on this team and they've all kind of become reliable here because of Daniel Jones' step forward. It's tight end, you're starting Tyler Warren, right? Josh
Mhm.
Downs is a guy that you're considering each week as a wide receiver 4. Alec
Oh,
Pierce is a
I
guy you're
have Pierce
considering.
well ahead of Josh Downs.
Right,
I
right.
don't
And
know
it's
where
like
you're at on that. Yeah.
I wouldn't say like well ahead, but for example, like I'll have Pierce as like a wide receiver 3, Downs as a wide receiver 4, Tyler Warren is a tight end 1, obviously. Like they're Michael Pittman, wide receiver, he's on that cusp of wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. So we kind of have something here where we have an ecosystem that just works for passing the ball, and that Indy defense is just bad enough where they have to keep passing the ball. They can't just give it to Jonathan Taylor 30 plus times, as nice as that might be for them to do.
You know the weirdest thing with Michael Pittman too is he's having like the lowest usage of his career. It's just that he's finally in a good offense and scoring touchdowns has already set or well tied his career high with touchdown receptions this year. But the usage has actually dipped quite a bit. It's just that it's being offset by how good this offense has gotten that nobody really matters. And I don't care either. I moved him all the way up. He's my wide receiver 15 on the year. But yeah, it's kind of interesting how much better the perception is of Michael Pittman now, even though he's drawing literal less usage. That's the word I was looking for. Less usage than he ever has before.
We got there. We got there. It took a
Yeah,
second, but we got there.
podcasters. We
What one last thing I want to point out too with Colts wide receivers here is the matchups coming up. Week 14 and week 17, they have matchups against the Jaguars, who have been very easy for fantasy wide receivers. Week 17 is that fantasy championship. Week 14 is that make or break it. Let's get into the fantasy playoffs week. So Alec Pierce, the value I think jumps up a little bit more here too. That it's not just that you're getting a wide receiver 3, it's that you're getting a wide receiver 3 on an offense that is scoring points and on an offense that's going to have some easy matchups at some very crucial points in the fantasy season as well. All right, let's go down to tier number 3, where we've got 3 players: Tank Bigsby, Christian Watson, and Torrey Horton, wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks. So Tank Bigsby is a guy we talked about last week. I don't think anything has changed for us in terms of Tank Bigsby. It's just if Saquon is injured, Tank is the guy. We haven't really gotten any updates on Saquon coming out of the bye week here, and I'm sure we will as practices go on for the week to see where that is. Either way, he's a handcuff. He's a handcuff, and this is a good player to have. So that's why we're going, especially on this offense, which is why we're going to have him this high in the rankings. Let's talk about the other 2 guys here, though. Christian Watson for the Green Bay Packers. He's had his role growing over these last 2 games. He's been able to make big plays. We have the injury to Matthew Golden. Jaden Reed is a guy who is probably going to be out for the rest of the season. All the reports have been pretty ambiguous, but Matt LaFleur has been just like, yeah, I doubt he's coming back. Now we get the injury to Tucker Kraft. There's so many moving parts here. Christian Watson could just find himself in a pretty big role, especially going up against the Lions here in week 10, a secondary that's been allowing a lot of deep plays and big plays to wide receivers. Is this not just a good pickup for this week, but a pretty good stash throughout the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think especially with Tucker Kraft out now, like he's gonna be the clear number 2 option there. Romeo Dobbs quietly just performing like a wide receiver 1, drawing a bigger target share than anybody else out there, being impactful and efficient with his touches. But Christian Watson, like we're seeing him come back from the ACL and just immediately up to speed, back-to-back weeks where he's been number 2 on the team in routes run. So I think this one's pretty simple here. Like he is a second-round pick with good athleticism. He's healthy. A lot of the other pass catchers in Green Bay aren't healthy. I would be shocked if anybody else emerges from here through the end of the season and has more targets than Christian Watson does. And it's not just targets either. Like
Oh,
these aren't just junk targets coming at the line of scrimmage. These are valuable downfield targets where Christian Watson has speed to make big plays. This is very similar to Alec Pierce. It's just we've seen proven production from Christian Watson at other points in his career, this is kind of the first time we're seeing it from Alec Pierce.
So are you suggesting that I just want to make sure I got it. Are you suggesting Christian Watson will lead the Packers in targets going forward, or is that
No,
still going to be the Romeo
second
Dobbs?
behind
Second.
Dobbs.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Second behind Dobbs. Yeah. No one else. I could see that. I could see that. And the schedule's pretty good going forward, Dave. We got Philly, New York Giants, Minnesota Vikings, Detroit, Chicago. Denver's really the only place where I see a tough matchup. And if Pat Surtain is still going to be out by that time, and they got Chicago, Baltimore's defense has been much better lately. So I think that'll be a tough one at week 17. But there are some pretty good matchups here for a player that can make some pretty big splash plays. Snap percentage is going up, 4 targets per game each of the last 2 games. I think this is one of those. It's just a high upside stash for Christian Watson. I don't know that you're going to be starting him this upcoming week. Where are you?
Once
What
you
do you
got Brian
think?
Thomas
It's
Jr.
early.
I mean, like, I think he might be in there. I haven't done my.
I was going to say, I know it's
rankings
early.
yet. He'll probably be inside the top 36 though, based on what
Okay.
we've seen so far.
I mean, yeah, thinking about it, right? Like, no Tucker Craft. Yeah, no Jaden
We've also got the
Reed.
Bengals, Chiefs, Cowboys, and Titans all on bye this week, where you've got a
It's a lot
lot
of
of
buys,
very
yeah.
prolific passing offenses. So,
Yeah,
that
there we
immediately
go.
removes like 6 guys out of the top 36 normally. So, again, haven't done my rankings yet, but I'm guessing he'll be somewhere right around that wide receiver 3 fringe area.
Let's talk about another guy who I don't know if he's quite in the wide receiver 3 fringe area. We have to see what his team ends up doing, but it's Torrey Horton, wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks, who let's go to the next tier here. And this is going to be tier number 4, where we've got Devin Singletary, running back for the New York Giants, Devin Neal, running back for the New Orleans Saints, and Luke Musgrave, tight end for the Green Bay Packers. Dave, let's start with Devin Singletary here. Week 9, 8 carries, 43 yards, adds 2 catches for 8 yards. It's not a massive performance, but it was a highly unexpected performance where I think a lot of us, you and me included, thought, okay, Tyrone Tracy's backfield now, right? Like he had been working in with Cam Scadaboo. He's out, Tracy's in. Let's see what the workload can be, especially a guy that has such a good receiving profile. Devin Singletary really led the way on the ground here. More rushes, more yards, just looked overall better. Tyrone Tracy did have the better day through the air. I think we're going to see probably close to a 55-45 split here, and a lot of that's going to depend on game script as well. They get the Jaguars in week 10, and I think that's probably going to be a tight game. So I think the unfortunate thing about a guy like Devin Singletary and Tyrone Tracy is they're going to be at about 8 to 9 fantasy points per week, and you're going to be asking yourself, do I flex them or someone else with a little more upside? And there's nothing here statistically or film wise or matchup wise that I think you and I can be like, well, yeah, these guys are easy RB2s, and this one is the clear winner out of this grouping here.
I think if there's a bit of silver lining, it's that the Giants were losing big, and Tyrone Tracy didn't see a single touch in the fourth quarter. So I do wonder if some of this was just him getting that starter treatment and saying like, "Hey, we're down 4
Right.
scores, 3 scores, whatever it is. Like, let's just let Devin Singletary finish out this game and go home." I wonder if that had something to do with it because Tyrone Tracy was getting the majority of the touches in the first half. He was more efficient with his touches as well. So, I definitely Devin Singletary is the clear number 2 here, and I think that he should be picked up just because I am always going to advocate for picking up a guy who's an injury away from a big workload. But I don't know if there's ever going to be any sort of starter worthy consideration with Devin
That's the
Singletary.
thing.
Like if you're flexing Devin Singletary and hoping to make the playoffs, I got some bad news for you. I do think that there are better days ahead for Tyrone Tracy though, because I think he's an explosive player. He can catch passes. We just didn't see a lot of it in this game. So if anybody is panicking about Tyrone Tracy, I'd say to buy low here. I still think you should pick up Devin Singletary as the contingent stash, but I don't think we're going to continue seeing that 55-45 split going forward.
Well,
I hope.
yeah, I was gonna, hope.
I'm coping is what they call it.
The next few matchups are relatively tough for the
It's bad.
Giants and
Giants
for the running
schedule is
backs.
brutal.
It's you got the Bears, Packers, Lions, Patriots, and then the bye. So like the next 5 weeks, not
Doesn't
exciting.
get better after the bye either. It's tough.
Well, so they do have Washington in week 15, which is easier. Minnesota, who has been susceptible. So like, if somehow there's a hold off into the fantasy playoffs, it's actually decent. And then the Raiders in week 17. So like it's decent, but it's not likely you're getting there if you have to rely on one of these guys week in and week out as your RB2.
And I think the hope was that Tracy would just come in and take Scadaboo's workload, which was, 80,
Right.
90% of the touches. I don't think that's going to happen.
Right. And yeah, it doesn't seem like that's happening here. Another guy who I want to throw this out quickly because He hasn't actually looked very good, but nobody on this team has looked very good. Devin Neal, running back for the New Orleans Saints, um, 3 carries and a catch. Doesn't
Yeah.
really tell you anything, but this is more of like contingent upside, making sure you grab.
Let's give it another 11 minutes, and then I'll give you my full take on Devin Neal if we find out whether
That's
Alvin
fair.
Kamara
That's
is going to be make it to the trade deadline or
So,
not.
I mean,
Which
let's just do that now. Let's do that now. If Alvin Kamara gets traded and Devin Neal is the starting running back for a Tyler Shuck led offense that is not scoring many points,
will be my
how,
RB 32 if there aren't any buys.
there you go. There you go. And like that's more like that's what I'm getting at here
Yeah.
is I don't know if there's heavy touchdown upside, there's not heavy receiving upside. This is not a good offense. This is more of if you need running backs, you're super desperate and you need a running back 4 or running back 5 right now with contingent upside to be a low end running back 3 and get you 7 to 9 fantasy points. I think that's what Devin Neal is. And honestly, I've talked myself out of my own rankings here for the waiver wire because the next guy we want to talk about here, I think you're right, Dave, is more valuable. It's Luke Musgrave, tight end for the Green Bay Packers, who's available in 99% of leagues.
I prefer him to both of the running backs that we just talked about.
You know
To be
what? Yeah.
honest. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it's just walking through it here has me there. A lot of my mindset was running back, running back, running back, right? Like that is so much more important. And my thought process with Luke Musgrave has been, I don't know that he is going to be a priority target for Jordan Love, right? If we're getting Dontavian Wicks back, Romeo Dobbs is going to be leading the team in targets. Christian Watson's going to be getting the big time targets. Is Luke Musgrave third or fourth in the pecking order, this hierarchy for Green Bay Packers pass catchers? That's fun to say it 3 times fast. I don't know how valuable that becomes as a tight end. Are we talking about a guy who's getting 3 catches a game? He's going to have to be able to do something big after the catch. So I think there's more upside here because of his athletic profile, good offense, premium position, and those are the things that I would prioritize him over these other running backs. But I'm still not super excited. Get me a little more excited about Luke Musgrave.
Well, Tucker Kraft wasn't getting a lot of volume either. I mean, he was kind of the third option on the team,
But
and he
he's a
was just making up
freak.
for it with big efficiency.
Yeah.
He is, and I absolutely, I'm not going to sit here and besmirch the name of Tucker Kraft.
Don't
I
you dare.
refuse to do that.
Don't you dare.
But if we look back, like 2023, when they analyzed both of these players, they drafted Luke Musgrave ahead of Tucker Kraft in that draft, and the reason why is because of the athleticism. I mean, Luke Musgrave, just off the charts athleticism,
Mhm.
94th percentile size adjusted speed score, 88th percentile burst score. This is a guy who has all of the size and measurables that Tucker Kraft does, but maybe even with a little bit more athleticism. So we didn't see much from Luke Musgrave because he's been dealing with injuries for the first 2 years of his career, but now he's the healthy one. Tucker Kraft is out of the picture. I don't think this is going to be a 1-to-1. Like, Luke Musgrave is going to come in and do all the stuff Tucker Kraft did. Tucker Kraft was unbelievable, leading the league in yards after the catch per reception. But Luke Musgrave can do a lot of those things. And I think if we can look at Luke Musgrave as like 80% of what Tucker Kraft was giving us, Tucker Kraft was giving us top 3, top 2, top 1 production on a weekly basis. I think you could still get top 12 production from Luke Musgrave in this role.
So all we can really go off of if we're going to look at Luke Musgrave production in the NFL is pretty much just the rookie season, which is not fair to do either, right? Because it is a rookie. It's a guy coming off injury. We have very few games here as a top 12 tight end. Once again, rookie season. When you're looking at what he was able to do in the actual NFL playoffs, tight end 6, tight end 10, lot less, a lot less production going on at that time from other players. So it's like you're seeing a guy who, for the most part, has been hovering around 3 to 4 catches per game, and you don't see a lot of yards after catch. That's going to be the thing I'm going to want to see. If you're struggling at tight end, I think he and the last guy we're going to talk about today are both interesting stashes because they're both premium positions, good offenses. I'm just going to say, like, I'm not breaking the bank for him, but I think I've talked
Yeah.
myself into it where I do prefer him over the running backs we've talked about.
Yeah. And again, I think like he's stash. I'm not trying to get Musgrave in my lineups this week by
Right.
any means, but I mean, even looking at my rankings, I've got him at tight end 26. Like I still prefer Juwan Johnson, Evan Ingram, AJ Barner, Taysom Hill, TJ Hawkinson. But I say that he's worth a pickup and a stash just because what if he does get that Tucker Kraft role where they're just hitting him in the flat and he's getting the deep shots downfield as well? Then he's the number one waiver wire target next week. So in deep leagues where I can afford to, I'm just going to pick him up, stash him this week, kind of see what his usage looks like. And if it's nothing special, it's easy to move off for him move off of him because you're probably picking him up for $0 this week.
Let's go to the final tier here where we've got Jarrett Patterson, running back for the Los Angeles Chargers. And this is This is just buying homeowners insurance, basically. At this point, it's just another running back to add into the list of the guys we talked about earlier. We're not sure what we're going to have from Kamani Vidal going forward. We're not sure when Amari Hampton is coming back. This is if you're desperate at running back. You've got some extra fab. You've got some bench space there. He's a guy you can stash. I don't think there's much to talk about here with Jarrett Patterson, Dave. He was good down towards the end of the game, logged 9 rushing attempts. Nothing big, but it's a handcuff player. Isaiah Likely is the guy that I'm intrigued by. And I know that Mark Andrews is coming off the big 2 touchdown game against the Miami Dolphins, but the role has not been big for Mark Andrews throughout this season. Isaiah Likely's role continues to still be pretty prominent, and we're talking about a pretty easy schedule for the Ravens going forward. Faces the Bengals in Week 10, who are one of the worst against tight ends, and especially if I don't know, Dave. Do you see some sort of upside here with Isaiah Likely as being a guy that you could maybe flex into certain weeks if Lamar and the Ravens really get things humming here? Or you're just saying, no, he's pretty firmly outside of my top 12 to 14 every single week?
Think Isaiah Likely is an industry plant. I don't really understand it. Like everybody
What?
loves Isaiah Likely. The production just hasn't been there. Like we saw that one like huge game last year in week 1, 111 yards. Outside of that, there was just no production last year. Like nothing at all. I'm looking right now, he averaged 3.1 targets per game last year outside of that week 1 matchup. So I know like he's a fun player, and we like those move tight ends that line up in the slot and line up out wide. But even this year, in the games that he's played, like the production hasn't really been there. So I think so much of the reason people get excited about Isaiah Likely is just still that week 1 matchup last year. I mean, like I said, 3.1 targets per game last year, 1.8 targets per game this year. I think there's upside if Mark Andrews has to miss any time, but Isaiah Likely, he's been kind of a tight end 3 throughout his entire career, aside from that one game last year. So I'm just not really buying into much from Likely.
So my only stash excitement here is less about I could give a rat's what about the one game he had last year. It's more about the athletic profile, seeing the role grow week in and week out. He's on a roughly 60% snap share, which I know is not great, but like you said, if we're talking about contingent upside for other players, and a guy who, I mean, first of all, the low target share early, low target numbers, excuse me, early in the season is coming back from injury. 0 targets first game, 1 target the next game, and it's grown and grown now up to 4 targets this last game, 3 catches, 60 yards. The schedule from weeks 13 through 17 is the easiest for tight ends. You're probably not able to get Mark Andrews because someone has already snatched him up. But if Isaiah Likely is there, it does become just a high upside contingent stash that you can probably grab for $0 in the waiver wire. That's why he's last in this list. I'm not putting him up as like a top 6 guy or even ahead of Luke Musgrave, but I am intrigued by it, especially because no one else in this Ravens offense has really come up as the elite pass catcher. We still have Zay Flowers, right? But after him, it's 2 to 3 catches a game for Mark Andrews. So
Rashad Bateman getting his like 1 touchdown every other week with
right,
Lamar Jackson. Yeah, I mean,
right.
I feel like
He
we do kind
Rashad
of know what
Bateman
the offense is.
walked so Alec Pierce could run.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just a curmudgeon about this, but I remember like diving deep into Isaiah Likely this offseason, and it's just there wasn't really much to get excited about last year. His role this year is similar to what it was last year. And like I said, last year he was giving us tight end 3 value. I mean, like you look on a per game basis, he was scoring the same amount of points as Noah Fant and Foster Moreau and Jake Ferguson before he became 2025 Jake Ferguson. So I think there's some contingent upside here. And in like your super deep leagues, if you want to stash him in case Mark Andrews has to miss any time, I'm okay with that. But I just don't think Isaiah Likely is ever really cracking my weekly top 24.
Okay. Let's go down to the quarterbacks and defenses to stream. This is something we started doing last week. Dave, we hit on the quarterbacks and defenses to stream. Our top quarterback to stream last week, Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
Crushes it. 4 touchdowns early in the game. Top defense to stream, Los Angeles Rams going up against New Orleans Saints. They crushed it. So let's go through some of these quarterbacks and defenses to stream this week. At the quarterback spot, we've got CJ Stroud against the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's only available in 50% of leagues, and he is also, we don't know what his status is going to be because he is in the concussion protocol. If he's able to play, the Jags are 32nd in fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks. CJ Stroud has been hovering around that quarterback 12, quarterback 15 weekly performance, so he does become a streamer if he's healthy and ready to go. Justin Fields versus the Cleveland Browns, 65% available. The Browns have actually been pretty good against quarterbacks, but like we always talk about, Justin Fields is a
How do they
different
do against
breed.
running backs?
There's- Ayo. Justin Fields is a different breed of quarterback, man. Like
Right.
it's something totally different. And then Bryce Young going up against the Saints. He's available in 82% of leagues. He's been a little up and down. It's been better as of late, but Saints fifth versus quarterbacks as of recent. By the way, when I'm doing these rankings here, this is over the last 3 weeks. I do think this becomes a very interesting matchup for Bryce Young, who's been throwing roughly 2 touchdowns per game over the last
And
3 to 4 games here.
And I told you the trend I recognize with Justin Fields. If he's playing a team that is bottom 10 in EPA per play, he gives you 25 to 35 points on a weekly basis. If he's facing any team that isn't bottom 10 in EPA per play, that's when you get those trap games. Well, Cleveland Browns are 6th worst in EPA per play. So
There it
that
is.
is all I need to see to fire Justin Fields up with confidence this week.
There it is. There it is. Let's go to the defense here. Defenses to stream. Ravens at the Minnesota Vikings. This Ravens defense continues to get better. They just traded for Draymond Jones along the defensive front. They're available in 52% of leagues, and the Vikings, 27th most fantasy points allowed to defenses. Now, that's going to be a little skewed because of Carson Wentz and because of the way things have gone in recent weeks, but still, we don't know enough about JJ McCarthy to say he's good or he's bad. So put him against the Ravens defense where things can get a little hairy. I'm intrigued by that. Dave, your Bears are going up against the New York Giants. They're available in 73% of leagues. They are sort of, the Giants are middle of the road here. A lot of it has to do with Jackson Dart just being able to run and not really being a turnover guy, but there have been plenty of sacks on Jackson Dart, and the Bears have been a highly, highly aggressive defense throughout this season.
That's one. Check your scoring settings because so many leagues have different scoring settings. I mean, some where you get points for sacks, some where you don't get points for sacks, and I think that's really where the value would come from the defense in this one.
Final 2 here are going to be the Panthers going up against New Orleans Saints. It's the Tyler Shuck-led Saints right now who are allowing the most points to DSTs. Panthers are available in 97% of leagues. This is going to be an easy one to find, but everyone's going to see that green NO sign next to the Panthers defense where they're going to want to go after them. And Dave, the Jets defense going up against Cleveland here. If you had to pick Panthers or Jets, who are you going with?
I'm going with the Jets just because I think Tyler Shuck is a little bit safer with the ball than Spencer Rattler was. Spencer Rattler was a little bit reckless. So I think this could be a lower scoring Saints team, but I think they don't commit quite as many turnovers. Dylan Gabriel, yeah, you're just firing up any defense to face it off against Dylan Gabriel, I think.
Well, there it is. So we went through our 3 QBs to stream, our 4 defenses to stream. We talked about 12 players here on the waiver wire, and even had to make a mid-show shift here with the Jacoby Myers trade. But Dave, it's another good one, man.
Real quick, we talked so much about the Jacksonville impact, what happens with Jacoby Myers there. We didn't talk about what happens with the Raiders.
You're
Jacoby
so
Myers out of the
right.
picture.
Let's do that.
So I do want to talk about that real quickly. Trey Tucker, I think that he belongs in the streaming discussion. I mean, this is a guy that I had talked about a few weeks ago that I just really like the development from Trey Tucker, that he went from being this early career deep threat to kind of a guy that's moving all over the field, moving the chains, kind of taking on that late career Doug Baldwin, Tyler Lockett type of role. So I think that his role is going to grow most. I mean, Brock Bowers.
Tyler Lockett, you say?
I mean, jokes aside,
also on the
Raiders. He
Raiders?
is going to be on the field a lot, which is going to be disgusting. Brock Bowers, I mean, I don't know how you can move him up any higher. Like, Brock Bowers is probably going to see 15 targets per game from here on out. But Trey Tucker, I think, makes for kind of an interesting wide receiver 3. Looking at, the guys that we prep for to talk on this show, I don't think I'd take him over Christian Watson, but I think I'd put Trey Tucker right alongside Torrey Horton as a guy that I'd be looking at as somebody to pick up off the waiver wire.
I think I would. I think I would take Trey Tucker over Christian Watson here. Let me just double check his availability because I don't even.
Jack Mesh season? Is that where we are now? With Jacoby Myers out of the picture?
Pants off.
They had
Let's
Jack Mesh
go.
in a role that I did not want to see him in because we know he's going to do his best work out of the slot, and he just couldn't get slot snaps with Jacoby Myers there. So, I don't want to sound like I'm being tongue-in-cheek here. I'm being mostly serious. Jack Best should see a much bigger role now with Jacoby Myers. I don't know if he's a guy that I'm going out trying to pick up on my waiver wires quite yet, but you better believe I'm going to be paying very close attention to what Jack Best does in week 10.
I am. I just, whatever, cool. Call it me just resting on the film analysis, this is the role that he was meant to play for the Raiders, and now that role is available. I'd rather be a week early and wrong and be able to drop him later than a week late and miss out on a player that's actually contributing. By the way, Trey Tucker only available in 47% of leagues, so
Yeah,
he wouldn't
bummer.
make
Yeah.
the show here. But
But I
if
think
he is
I'd
available,
still Jack Besh. I'd prefer him. I prefer Luke Musgrave to Jack Besh, but Devin Singletary, Devin Neal, Jared Patterson, Isaiah Likely.
yeah.
I'd stash Jack Besh over all those guys.
Graphics team, what's up? We're doing it to you again. Last minute. I'm just kidding. We're not going to do that. It's the final minute of the show.
Also,
But
Michael Mayer. Michael Mayer got a lot of
Dave,
work last
no, we
week,
were
and
at
he's
an
the
odd number. Oh, no, we're
oh,
not. We're
I'm
back
sorry.
in an odd number. We get 15. Look at that. Clayton will
Yeah.
be so happy.
But yeah, I think Mike Mayer, we saw them playing a lot of 12 personnel last week. Michael Mayer almost had a huge touchdown that like would have really changed the tune on Mike Mayer this week. So I think he is worth, a stash perhaps too. It'll be interesting to see what this team looks like without Jacoby Myers. But if this entire passing game is just focused around Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer, Trey Tucker, and Jack Besh, kind of fun. That could be fun.
Last little thing here, rumor, not necessarily fantasy football relevant, but sounds like the Dolphins will be moving Bradley Chubb today to the Cowboys or 49ers. That comes from Ricky Scoops.
Well, the trade deadline passed 5 minutes ago, so
Did it? Well,
yeah,
he posted that 2 hours ago, so
I think
wasn't
so. I
sure.
could be wrong. Hold on, yeah, trade
Damn
deadline.
you, daylight savings time! I don't know when anything is anymore. It's dark at 4:30 p.m. I hate it.
Let me double check. I think it's 2
The
p.m.
depression's
Right?
setting in early here.
Oh, it's 4 p.m. All right, we still got 2 hours. Never mind. We're
Let's
totally wrong. We still got
go.
2 hours of trades.
It's Jack Besh season. We got 2 more hours of trades, and this was a fun show. We're going to be back again tomorrow with our trade episode. Dave, you and I are going to be looking at players to stash for the playoffs, right? And these are players that it's not just go out and buy them from people in your leagues, but these are going to be players that have good fantasy playoff schedules, players who haven't quite broken out yet, but have that opportunity to. This is a big one. And then in future weeks, we're going to be talking about players that you can just sabotage drop. That's a fun one. Actually, don't know which one we'll do. We'll do one of those tomorrow. I think they'll be pretty good.
We'll be back tomorrow with
Yeah,
something.
we'll be back tomorrow talking fantasy football, probably something like that. And then Thursday we're back with our starts and sleepers episode. As always, I want to thank everybody for watching or listening all the way through. For myself, for Dave, we'll see you next time. Adios.